Hi, I'm Carla, and I'm here today with Liz. And today's program is a combination of a class that's recommended for colds and then also one for sinuses. So these are poses that the two sort of programs have in common. This would be hopefully a good program to do if you are feeling a little bit bunged up, a little bit congested, suffering from sinusitis, a head cold, and also even if you are struggling with allergies. So a lot of the poses are supported poses. You're going to use a lot of equipment, hence the chair, the bolsters, the bench, the dog, etc. So gather everything you need for your practice and we'll begin. You're sitting in a comfortable cross-legged position, sitting up tall, with the spine extended and the chest well open. We're bringing the hands into the prayer position, allowing the eyes to close. Here, you want to take soft inhalations, soft exhalations, coming to your breath, using the breath as a tool to separate you from the outside world and bringing you completely to your mat. We'll begin the class with the 3 Oms. Coming back to the breath, feel that your spine is still nice and tall and the chest is well opened. On an exhalation, drop your head down. Taking a moment here to salute the divinity within. When you release the next breath out, also release your hands into your lap. Lift your head up and open your eyes. Okay, so the first pose we're doing is Adho Mukha Svanasana. In this Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, you're going to be supported. So the idea is that you're taking your hands onto bricks. You want to therefore move your mat right up to the wall. And you're going to take a set of bricks shoulder distance apart against the wall so that when you take your hands onto the bricks, they're not going to slip out from under you. The edge of the palm is on the edge of the brick. You're not taking your hands right to the wall, and you'll keep your shoulder balance foams or whatever other support you may want or need for a little bit of height to support your head. So coming into Adho Mukha Svanasana here, downward facing dog. Once your hands are placed, don't grip the brick with your thumb and your pinky. Make sure that the edge of the palm is right clipped on the edge of the brick so that you're not going to slide forward. You can keep the feet hip distance apart. And if your head isn't reaching your support, then lift up, a little bit of extra support, a folded blanket and such, that can be useful. You can also use a bolster if you don't have a lot of those shoulder balance foams. These poses are supposed to be restorative, quietening poses. So as you hold the pose, just be with your body, be with your breath. If you are very congested and it really feels uncomfortable to have your head down like this, then absolutely at any time you come down onto all fours, you rest, or anytime when you need to rest, you rest. And then you see, can you go back into Adho Mukha Svanasana? In Adho Mukha Svanasana, you're trying to keep the legs straight, you're trying to keep the arms straight. Feel your own body. At any point that you need to release, you come down. Make sure you extend the thumbs, extend the fingers so you're not gripping the brick. When you feel you've had enough, bend your knees, put your feet on the floor, your knees on the floor rather, and you can come to a restful Adho Mukha Virasana where you can just rest your forehead on this height. So that pressure on the forehead is sometimes quite relieving as well. The next pose in the program is Prasarita Padottanasana. Prasarita Padottanasana is a wide-legged pose. So you're coming to standing again in the middle of your mat. If you are a beginner and you are unable to, when you have your legs wide for Prasarita Padottanasana, if you're unable to bring your fingertips on the floor, you're going to have the 2 bricks for your hands, and you're going to keep your shoulder balance foams and the bricks handy if you need them for your head. So line up your feet to the back of the mat. Take the feet wide, outer edges of the feet parallel, and now coming onto the floor with your fingertips. If you can reach the fingertips to the floor, then fantastic. If you can't, you're taking bricks. If you are really super, super tight and there's no way you're going to get any deeper into the forward bend from here, then what you do is taking a chair. You've got the chair to rest your forehead onto. You want the head supported. You want that quiet stillness in the brain. And this is the first stage for Prasarita Padottanasana. You hold this for a few moments. If you have a little bit more flexibility like Liz does, and you're able to start moving your hands back, then bring your hands back in line with the feet. Start to bend the elbows and take the head down towards the floor. Once more, we're going to place some shoulder balance foams or a bolster, folded blankets, build up however. You can use a small stool, anything you've got handy for you. You want to build up the floor so that the head is rested. And it's the crown of the head that's rested when you're in this full forward bend position, like you would in a head balance position. And again, if you are not so flexible and you're on your chair, it's the forehead that's rested on the chair. Prasarita Padottanasana is a wonderful pose also in preparation for Shirshasana. Again, listen to your own body. If you feel really bunged up, if you need to stop and go blow your nose and get some water, if your cold's that bad, then absolutely do that. Otherwise, we're coming up and come to standing in Tadasana. Now, Uttanasana is done either with the feet together in the classic position or with the feet hip distance apart. For this program, we're taking the feet even wider. So quite sort of as wide as your outer hips, maybe not that wide, as wide as your outer hips. And once again, strong legs coming onto your fingertips. If you're unable to reach the floor with your fingertips, then you're going to use your bricks. You can take your legs even a little bit wider, yes. If you're unable to reach the floor with your fingertips, take a set of bricks and again have the chair to rest your forehead on. Here, if you are able to get a little bit deeper into the pose, you're going to widen the arms, bend the elbows, and then as you bend your head, you're going to see, can you get the head to move onto, so the crown of the head onto the brick. If this is too high, let me know. Yep, it looks a little bit high for you. Let's try that height. So legs are straight, you're allowing the spine to lengthen, the sides of the body to open up, the rib cage to open and extend. Is your head on here? Letting the head settle down. If it feels like it's just not quite enough, a brick is too much, and no brick is not enough, you have to just keep playing around with the height so that the crown of the head is rested on the floor. You want that slight, not really pressure, but yeah, I guess a weight on the head. So slight pressure on the head. Uttanasana, try not to grip the toes. Keep lifting the knees, drawing up the knees. Keep letting the length in the side body come. If you're not very flexible, this is not the most releasing position. So make your way back to the upright position. And we're repeating Adho Mukha Svanasana once more. Now this Adho Mukha Svanasana, we're not using the bricks for the hand, so you do not need to go all the way to the wall. But you're going to rest your head on the bolster. So hands are on either side of the bolster. When you come down, you want to see, can the head rest on the bolster? If the head, lift up. If the head's not resting on the bolster, give yourself some blankets, give yourself some shoulder balance foams. If that's still not enough, Sorry, this bolster is very wide, so you can take your arms wider if you need. Take your hands wider, yes. You're still coiling the triceps towards the face though. Try to release the head. If this cold or your allergies have been bothering you, that you are feeling weak and these kinds of poses are challenging for you, don't hold them for too long. Liz, you could probably move your feet slightly back. So come into a nice big downward dog. Take the feet wide, feet apart. Yes. Nice wide downward dog. Listen to your body. Keep stretching the spine, keep bringing the dorsal into the body, opening the chest and the armpits towards the knees. Keep rolling the triceps towards the face so that the top shoulder is free. When you've held there for a few breaths, come onto all fours, release in Adho Mukha Virasana with your head on these bolsters. So you're just resting for a moment, relax the shoulders also. So Shirshasana is part of the program also, and Shirshasana can feel quite heavy in the head if you're very congested. So once again, listen to your body, and you're only going to do what you can. If you don't have Shirshasana as part of your practice, then you're not going to do any inversion. You're going to either repeat downward facing dog, or you can simply stay with your legs up the wall. In Shirshasana, just to demonstrate very quickly, you want to have a blanket, some softness for the head. If you're unable to balance on your own, you're going to take the support near a wall so that you've got the wall for support. You're placing yourself on the mat, fingers are clasped, elbows are shoulder distance apart, and you're trying to get that whole forearm onto the floor. Then you're going to lift your knees off the floor. And when you feel ready, kick up either one leg at a time or bent legs or two legs, whatever is easiest for you. Once you're in your Shirshasana, you're lifting the shoulder blades, you're lifting the sides of the hips, the legs, you're pressing into the forearms. This isn't comfortable for everybody when you are congested. Hold it only as long as you can. When you feel you've had enough, you come down. Otherwise, you just keep repeating downward dog. So that was just a short demonstration of what Shirshasana is. When you come down from your Shirshasana, rest and release. Right. When you looked at Shirshasana, you were going forward to the crown of the head. Now, in the next position, Viparita Dandasana, you want the same pressure on the crown of the head, except you're going back to put the pressure on the crown of the head. So what you're going to do is grab your mat and you're going to fold it in half and then in half again. And the mat is just useful to help you not to slip off your chair, although, you know, you can just also put a blanket on the chair and that will suffice. And depending on your own flexibility, depending on your condition of your back, you have to know whether or not you need to take your feet on height for support or whether you can take your feet down to the floor. To come into Viparita Karani, you're going to thread yourself through the backrest of the chair. You'll have a bench here ready to put your legs on top of if you need it, especially if you need it, make sure you take it and have it ready. And here I'm placing two bolsters, and the bolsters are there for Liz to be able to get her head onto and also open the arms to get them back. So threading your buttocks through the chair, you want the flesh of the buttocks down, and where babies get their dimples, that's going to be kind of on the edge of the back seat. And here the edge of the shoulders are going to curl over the seat. If you need to come through the chair a little bit more, let the head go back and just take the crown of the head down. So in Viparita Dandasana, you're basically going into a head balance and then going into a back bend. So if you can take your arms over your head now and work them as if you're going towards head balance position, or you can also just keep the arms as Liz had them at the sides going to the chair. So whatever is comfortable for you. Arms overhead gives you an openness if you feel that that's possible for you. Then you're going to straighten the legs and bring them onto the stool. You might need to get somebody's help here. but if you measure yourself up, you should be fine. You can also have this setup where you go into it facing a wall. So here where the stool is, there's a wall, and then you rest your feet on the wall versus onto the stool. You're getting a complete freedom in the diaphragm here. If you suffer with vertigo or blood pressure or headaches, and you feel anything untoward, come up immediately. Otherwise, if you can, feel this openness, the chest is open, the throat is open, all these chakras here are open, and you just want to be with your breath. Diaphragm is released. Viparita Dandasana can be a little bit awkward and uncomfortable for people to hold. So try and find some comfort in it. If it really feels too much having your head back like that, especially if you have a neck injury, then when you're ready, you're going to bend your knees, put your feet on the floor, holding onto the backrest of the chair, tuck in your chin and come up. Sit back towards the front seat of the chair so that you're facing the backrest comfortably, and just be here for a few breaths. Steady yourself, find your gaze, quieten the gaze. Okay? Right. The next pose that you want to try, or you can do both, is Supta Baddha Konasana or Supta Virasana. Now, Supta means lying down or sleeping. Supta Baddha Konasana and Supta Virasana are two quite common restorative poses, although sometimes the Supta Virasana doesn't feel all that restorative for everybody. Because we are working on restoratives, you are going to still use your bolster. I'll show Supta Virasana very quickly. Virasana is when you're sitting in between your 2 feet and you've got your bolster behind you and you're lying over the bolster. For people who have ankle issues, knee issues, tight quadriceps, that is a super uncomfortable pose to do. You're welcome to do it. We are going to come today into Supta Baddha Konasana. So sitting in front of your bolster, you can face the wall there. Have your bolster centered, Baddha Konasana, feet together, knees apart, yes. Have a blanket ready at the top of your bolster, whether you're in Supta Baddha Konasana or Supta Virasana. When you lie back, make sure that you feel the length of your spine along the center of the bolster, that the bolster is centered. That blanket supports the head and the neck. Throat is quiet. Arms are at your sides. Relax the top shoulder. Let the arms just settle down. If you feel any tightness in the groins, in the hip region, while doing Supta Baddha Konasana, you're welcome to take the strap and wrap it around, like in the classic pose, or taking just 2 shoulder balance foams or 2 blankets that are evenly folded, set them by your thighs, and maybe that little support, I don't know if I've got it in the right spot for you, maybe that support feels a little bit more comfortable. But if you have no issues, you can remove them, yeah? You don't need to hold them. The thing about supports is in this pose, Baddha Konasana, you can see there's a lovely openness in the chest. There's a quietness in the throat. You can close the eyes. You can be at ease here. So when you're trying to hold this pose for a length of time and you're trying to get the benefits from this restorative, you do have to be in the pose for a little bit. And if the hips are screaming at you, then it's not going to be a pleasant experience at all. So at any point in time, you take whatever supports you need. You had enough. Okay, we can continue. There is another way of doing Supta Baddha Konasana where you can use the strap for support. So if you have one of these straps that are adjustable, you make a nice biggish loop, bringing the knees together. You thread the strap over the knees and then take the knees apart so that the strap is at the front ankle. You tighten it. The strap is at the base of your pelvis, and hopefully the strap has cupped the outer thigh region here so that there's a little bit of support there for the hip. So whether you're in Supta Virasana or in Supta Baddha Konasana, close the eyes now, let the skin of the face be soft and relaxed. almost like a Shavasana kind of feeling in this pose. There's a few more restoratives that we're going to do from here. The rest of the program is all supported restoratives. And in these restoratives, you would again feel what you're feeling, listen to your body. If it feels comfortable and good, hold it for longer. If anything feels uncomfortable or you're not happy in a specific pose, rather come out of it and go on to the next one. All of these poses can also just be done individually, really. If you come home and you're just feeling a bit tired, Supta Baddha Konasana is a wonderful recuperative pose. From Supta Baddha Konasana, we're going to come to Salamba Sarvangasana. Not Salamba Sarvangasana, sorry, Setubandha Sarvangasana. So Setubandha is the bridge pose where you generally are holding yourself up with your hands, or you are using support. In classic Setubandha Sarvangasana, you use your hands to support you. Here, because we're working for a more restorative and therapeutic purpose, we're going to take your bolster. You want to have the bolster is supporting you right from the base of your shoulder blades all the way through to your feet. So then you're going to have a second bolster. If you do not have a second bolster, you can build up your shoulder balance foams, blankets, etc., just to get a nice long support. A little bit higher would be better, but you're going to sit on it with your feet on either side of the bolster. Then you're going to slide down, making sure that the bolster is centered, getting the shoulders onto the floor. Too much, so come further forward. So you want to drag the flesh of the back down to get the shoulders on the floor, palms face up in a gesture of receiving. Back of the neck is long. If you have neck issues, you can take a blanket for the head and then extend the legs. And it looks to me that this bolt is, so bend up your knees and let's just give you an extra blanket because I think that will be a little bit better height. Okay, relax the body here. So classic Setubandha is a strong pose. Here you are just in a restful position. Once more, the diaphragmatic region is free, the chest is nice and open. Because of the lift of the chest onto the bolster, you've got freedom in the side chest here, the arms fall away, and there's freedom in the side chest that you can breathe more freely. Back of the neck is long, throat is quiet. So you're already doing a little bit of this Jalandhara Bandha shape that you get when you're doing poses like Halasana and Salamba Sarvangasana, which we're going to do after this. In Setubandha, there's a nice release in the abdomen also. Because the legs, you're not in that classic Setubandha back bend position, should be comfortable on your back here. Keep the eyes closed. Keep working internally, feeling your breath in your body. And when you've been here for a few breaths, again, you can hold these poses for longer, just going through them to give you some ideas of which poses to do when you are feeling congested and a little bit not so nice. So to come up out of it, you're going to bend your knees. And now you're going to roll off your bolster like you're coming out of Shavasana so that you've got your knees, your hips, and your shoulders all on the same height, on the same level. And then you're going to release out of that. So if you have a nice square, sturdy bolster like I do, this square bolster is a bit flat, but it's actually quite perfect for the shoulder balance and the halasana that we're going to be doing. You're going to use either a nice sturdy bolster, or you can use your shoulder balance foams, build them up with some blankets, whatever you need to get to get this kind of level support. You need to have a little bit of a ramp to kick your butt over. So you can either use a second bolster, or you can put your strip of bricks with blankets. And we're taking the feet over the stool. So this is called a halasana stool. The difference between using a stool and a chair is the stool, you'll rest your thighs onto it, which is more classic and more comfortable. The chair, because you've got this little rung, it's difficult to get close enough to the chair, so you end up only with your knees on. So you're going to place your head on the floor, your shoulders are on the support, and you've got your feet and your butt on the ramp to kick yourself over. Halasana is bringing the feet over in the plow. I'm just going to hide Liz here, so I'm bringing the bench closer. You can take your hands wherever you need to, kick your feet over your head, and you're placing your thighs onto the bench. Now the bench will move. I just want to bring it a bit closer to you. So if you are claustrophobic, it might not feel very comfortable. You can place your hands wherever is comfortable. Sometimes just in the cactus position, just resting them over your head is a nice position. And if you're nice and tall and you want a little bit more height under the thighs, taking a foam on top of your halasana bench helps as well. So once again, these aren't easy poses to always get into on your own. They are doable on your own. You okay there? Comfortable there? So it's one of my favorite poses. This kind of half restorative rested halasana is very soothing on the brain. It's very quietening. It's the legs are supported, so the sides of the body are free. And it should feel lovely. If your shoulders are on the bolster, try not to let your shoulders slide and fall off your bolster. So you are on the top shoulder, the back of the neck is long. If you feel massively claustrophobic, if your neck is not happy, if for any reason this doesn't feel as good as it generally does, then of course come out of it. This halasana, you can actually, throughout the program, repeat it 2 or 3 times. So we're going to, after this halasana, do shoulder balance in the chair. But if you don't do shoulder balance, if you're not used to doing inversions, stay in this halasana. This halasana is a wonderful pose. And after shoulder balance, if you have the time, you can come back to this halasana position as well. You'll repeat it. Coming out of it now, so just be careful that you don't throw things all over yourself. Releasing out of it again, just by rolling off onto your side. Settling there for a moment. So Salamba Sarvangasana is the shoulder balance position. And shoulder balance is generally done in our Iyengar practice. You will do it on supports, so that when you're in that shoulder balance position, you're not putting too much strain on C7 at the base of the neck. The other nice way of doing a supported shoulder balance is not just on foams and blankets like in the classic position, but in the chair, because the chair just gives you a lot of freedom, a lot of support. And if you're a beginner, have somebody help you. You're going to fold up your mat in half and in half again. This is just to add a little bit of cushioning to your chair, and it also helps you to not slip. These are just standard fold out chairs where we remove the backrest, so it makes it much easier to work with. You're going to have a blanket to give you some softness for your head. And once again, we've got our lovely flat bolster or your shoulder balance foam stacked and covered in a blanket there. You're not going through the chair. You're sitting sideways on the chair, and you're hooking your feet over the backrest of the chair. Now, if Liz moves into the chair more, then there's this massive piece of seat here, which is when she folds over, it's going to dig into her spine. You just want your sacrum attached to the edge of the chair. So scoot back until you've just got, that's enough, this little lip to get the sacrum into. You have to use your abdominals. Try not to lift the legs to flip the chair. The legs have to be heavy. You have to release your arms. And then if you can thread the arms through the chair as you go down, you do. Otherwise, holding the outer chair is fine. You have to straighten your knees at some point to get the shoulders to nestle down. So it's kind of like a little bit scary when you're going off the seat of the chair to find that bolster with your shoulders. Once you're in it though, it gives you that wonderful shape of shoulder balance without you having to work so hard. If you have a handmaiden who can give you a bolster behind your knees, or if you have an extra folded blanket, you can just hook it on the backrest before you go into it. So shoulder balance. In shoulder balance, when you're upright, you're creating a plumb line from the shoulders through the hips, through the knees, through the ankles. And although Liz isn't in an upright position and you're on the chair, you've still got that lovely line. You've got that wonderful openness in the front groin hip region here, which is so difficult to get in shoulder balance. Arms are in place. You don't need a strap. The chair's holding you. Back of the neck is long. You can close your eyes. You can quietly settle here for a moment. Shoulder balance is a wonderful pose, and you want to build up your stamina and your ability to hold it for long. And being in a chair is just makes it super, super easy. Because you're supported in the chair, it also means that there's not so much weight on the shoulders because the body is not in that upright shoulder balance position. So here, just feel that lovely length in the back of the neck, that release in the face, the throat, the shoulders. When you want to come out of shoulder balance, you're going to have to let go of the chair. You'll bend your knees and kick your chair away from you. Then you slide the buttocks down, slide yourself down so that you can get your head on the bolster, your buttocks on the floor. You can leave your feet on the chair. Just get your head down. Have a moment here to rest. Our next pose is also a very wonderful therapeutic pose called Viparita Karani. And Viparita Karani is basically taking the legs up the wall. So when you come to Viparita Karani, you want to then take your mat up close to the wall. There are various ways of getting into Viparita Karani, and there's various supports you can use for Viparita Karani. So one of the things is blankets. You need a whole bunch of those. You'll need your brick also, especially if you're very tall. You want your brick between the wall. You want your brick between the wall and your mat so that there's a little bit of a stopper. My bolster is a little bit flat. So for Viparita Karani, what I generally do is take 2 shoulder balance foams, and then I prop up my bolster. You can also just put folded blankets. You don't need to do the foams. Because this is a really rather sticky mat, I'm going to place a blanket here so that Liz will have her shoulders and her head on the blanket. You can roll into it. Do you ever roll into it?
Yes.
Okay, so you can just roll into it where you figure out, okay, if my butt's going to go into that little groove there, this is my back, my upper back, my shoulders, my head. You place your head and you roll and you go. However, if you struggle with the rolling, by kneeling next to your support, you get your butt to the wall, your feet out the way. I want my shoulders here, so don't start by going there. You need to scrunch, get your shoulder here, lift your buttocks, lift your knees, and then roll and settle onto the bolster into Viparita Karani. An easier way of getting into it, though, is to roll. You happy to roll? How are you feeling congested-wise? Okay, so when you are rolling, you at first place the crown of the head on the floor, but then you have to tuck and roll. You have to be on the back of the head to roll. If you have neck issues, don't roll. Okay, so off you go. Placing your head more or less where the head is going to be. You have to tuck so that you get onto the back of the head. So lift your knees, tuck your chin, and there you have it. You have to dodge the bolster a little bit with your arms. So just have your arms out to the sides, relax the hands on the floor, palms face up to the ceiling. Thighs and the legs are heavy into the pelvis. This abdomen is quiet and spread. The diaphragm is nicely open and release. The chest is open. Side walls of the chest are free. So here you're just going to take a few breaths in this pose, Viparita Karani. Viparita Karani is a wonderful pose for anyone struggling with heart issues. It's a very restorative pose for the heart. It also is a wonderful pose if you suffer from anxiety, panic attacks, those kinds of things, depression. This pose is great for the lymphatic system, the cardiovascular system. If you've had one of those just busy, long day, come home, rest in Viparita Karani for 5 minutes. Give yourself that space and that time just to be still. Viparita Karani is often done as a pose in lieu of shoulder balance. So if you don't yet do inversions, if you don't yet practice shoulder balance, this is a wonderful pose to do. So after Viparita Karani, if you had time, you could then squeeze in another halasana, where you're taking your feet overhead onto the bench like we did before or onto the chair. So you can decide whether you want to stay in Viparita Karani or whether you'd prefer to do another halasana. But after this Viparita Karani, we're going to come to Shavasana. And the Shavasana that we're doing will be supported. So Viparita Karani, you either roll off the mat, get your head and shoulders and butt on the same level. So come out flat first. Yeah. Or you roll yourself into the middle of the room, push yourself into the middle of the room, and then come up. Okay. So the Shavasana we're doing is a supported Shavasana. You're going to use the bolster along the length of your spine. So do you want to jump up? You can pack those shoulder balance foams away. You want a folded blanket for your head. Folded blanket is for your head and your neck, and it's going to sit at the top of the bolster. Make sure that the drawstring for the bolster is there so that you're not going to be sitting on a knot. You're lying in front of the bolster, sit on the floor. You're going to lengthen the spine, extend the legs, Shavasana. Bring the blanket to touch the head and the neck. Arms are at your sides. Just allow the palms to face up. Let the palms be soft like Shavasana. So don't extend the fingers, relax the fingers. You can relax the legs also at Shavasana. So let the feet flop out to the side. You're coming to a completely restful position in Shavasana. Make sure when you're in Shavasana that that bolster feels that it's aligned along the center spine, the center back. Feel that the back of the neck is long. When you lay yourself on the bolster, make sure that the skin of the back, upper back is resting away from the ears, that the flesh of the buttocks is away from the back waist. And you're just taking soft inhalations and soft exhalations. If you are completely congested and you have absolutely no ability to breathe through the nose whatsoever, then a lot of these poses would have been super uncomfortable for you. And the pranayama that's recommended is probably not going to be very doable for you. So pranayama is breathing. The breath exercises that are recommended for things like sinuses, allergies, and those wonderful conditions is to breathe Ujjayi Pranayama 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is done like this in Shavasana, and also Viloma Pranayama. So Ujjayi 1 is just listening to your own breath, feeling your own breath. A breathing cycle is an inhalation, a pause, an exhalation, and a pause. So here you're just following those cycles, observing your breath. Does the inhalation feel tight? Does the exhalation feel tight? Which feels small and pitiful? Can you identify which lung is taking in the most air? Can you listen to the sound of the inhalation, the sound of the exhalation? Ujjayi pranayama 2 is when you start to increase your exhalation. So in this position, taking a soft breath in, and as you exhale, try to control that exhalation, make it a long, slow, steady, long, deep exhalation, and then a normal breath in and a normal breath out. When you're doing pranayama, especially if you're new to yoga and you're new to breathing exercises, listen to your breath, listen to your body in your breath. Don't do anything that feels very strained and harmful to the nervous system. So all these pranayama practices are done with control. You're taking a full inhalation and then a deep, controlled, steady, long exhalation. So all your focus is on the exhalations. Normal breath in, normal breath out to recover. When you feel ready for the next cycle, a full inhalation and that controlled, steady, still, long, peaceful exhalation. Coming back to normal breathing. Ujjayi pranayama 3 is when you are increasing and the inhalation. Again, you're doing it within your capacity, none of this, no hardness or strain. So starting with empty lungs, you'll take a full controlled breath in, and then you'll empty the lungs completely. And you'll take recovery breaths in between. So when you feel ready for the next cycle, empty the lungs, and then a long, controlled, full, deep inhalation, no strain or tension. The breath turns around and a normal exhalation. Normal breath in, a normal breath out to release. And then you can do one last cycle of Ujjayi pranayama 3, where you're increasing the inhalation. Go to your capacity. Don't tighten in the jaw and throat. Ujjayi pranayama 4 is a combination of 2 and 3. So when you're ready, the cycle is a full, controlled, deep, strong inhalation, a pause, and a full, controlled, deep, long exhalation, and a pause, and that completes your cycle. You'll take recovery breaths in between, and then you'll try the next cycle. The reason you do Ujjayi pranayama 1, where you're just observing the breath, is to listen to the sound of the breath, to feel what your breath feels like at rest. There should be no strain, no tension when you're doing these exercises, especially when you push within your limits. When you've done a few cycles of Ujjayi pranayama 4, you're going to just come to normal breathing. And I'll just very quickly introduce you to Viloma. Viloma 1 is basically where you are breathing in interruptions. So you're going to imagine that your whole torso is your lungs. You're not just breathing in the lungs. You're going to breathe in from the pubic bone to the navel and pause. From the navel to the base of your chest, pause. And then filling all the way up to the collarbones and pause, and then exhale completely and take a few recovery breaths in between. So when you're pausing, it's a soft suspension. You're not holding the breath or hardening the throat in any way. And you can do as many interruptions as is comfortable for you. So when you're ready for the next cycle, empty the lungs completely. And then when you're ready to inhale, you'll begin taking a little bit of air into a point and pausing. No air in or out in that point. Taking a little bit more air in and pausing, complete suspension, filling the lungs completely and pausing, and then a normal Ujjayi exhalation out. And then normal breaths in and out. So this Viloma practice is very, very beneficial. Let's try one more cycle when you're ready. You can fill in stages, as I said, taking in as many stages as you can within your capacity. And when you've done that last final stage of Viloma, you're just coming back to normal breathing. If you're comfortable in this Shavasana, you stay in this position of Shavasana. If you'd like to change out of this position, you're going to bend your knees, roll onto your side, just without disturbing the body too much. Remove the bolster. You can leave the blanket for your head. Make sure that the blanket for the head is still supporting the head and the neck comfortably. There's no weird folds. And then the bolster is coming underneath the knees. It's at the center back knee so that it's half on the knee, half on the calf, half on the thigh, half under the calf, half under the thigh rather. Your heels are grounded. Pelvis is quiet. Your back feels flat and released along the floor. Arms are quietly settled at the sides. Arms soft, fingers slightly curled. Make sure that the back of the neck feels long, the head feels completely rested. From the hairline to the nose, to the chin, to the toes, just release completely. Soft inhalations, soft exhalations in this quiet Shavasana state. You can hold Shavasana for as long as you want or need. If you have time, stay in Shavasana. Be in this peaceful, quiet state for a moment longer. You're coming to the end of your practice. Start to allow the breath to deepen. Those inhalations are bringing that vital pranic energy to every cell of the body. Those inhalations slowly lifting you back to consciousness. Bring your hands anywhere to rest on your torso where it's comfortable for you. And here you're connecting with your breath again. On the next breath in, stretch your arms over your head, give your body a long, deep stretch, and you can yawn or sigh the breath out. Then bending the knees, roll onto your right-hand side, cradle your head in your right arm for a few moments. The knees curled into the chest in this fetal position. You want to get up slowly, almost reluctantly. So pressing your left hand into the floor, you lift your head up last. Making your way into a seated position, any comfortable seated position. Lift your spine, open your chest. Bring your hands into the prayer position and close your eyes again. Find your breath once more. Put a small smile on your face, taking in each inhalation with a sense of gratitude. Each breath in opens the chest. You get that sense, that feeling of elation. And with each exhalation, just a moment here to give thanks for the health and strength of your body. On the next breath in, let the eyes gently flutter open and focus. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you, Liz. I hope that was helpful. And yeah, try some of those out, see if it helps you. You do need to repeat them regularly, but just keep practicing and we'll see you on the mat next time. Thank you.